and we usually have a head of state from the region to cover it. So when the president didn't turn up and there was no regional leader to be a special guest of honor, we didn't even have those international musicians we have. People began to speculate. His praise singers said, no, you'll be at Gondel Windy ceremony on Monday because he has been listed as the one that will hand over the house, the palace that has been built at the cost of 4 million, and the president will be doing a physical handover himself. So, they castigated us for being malicious and for asking about the presence of the president. Came Monday for the Luindi ceremony, and the president was nowhere to be seen. He delegated his two ministers, Jack Muumbu and Lufuma. And remember, we had another huge crisis where there were reported deaths in Muumbu district at Kikonge Pit and Chiefs Pit, where gold mining has been going on illegally by young people. They've taken advantage. And the reports from government are saying over 25,000 people had gathered in Muumbu in that small area, and they were digging various pits. Apparently, the amount of gold dust, gold flakes, and gold nuggets were so attractive that it attracted so many people. There are reports that 18 people are feared dead. The number could be higher. There are reports that 2 police officers died. You probably have seen those videos of a policewoman that is lying lifeless, and there's another one. There are those videos circulating. But government insists only 3 people died. They've confirmed about the harm that was done to the police, but they claim that only 11 police officers were harmed. No one died. We've called this activity very, very careless, because you can't send a few number of policemen to go and disperse 25,000 people without notice, and just to use brutal force and tear gas. That in itself created a big crisis, which was, you fire tear gas in a crowd, you create a riot situation. So we have called for an official inquiry. The number of people that are said to have died, including the chief's grandson in the area, are so many. And I think Zambians deserve the truth. This also brings us to an issue of the mining policy. What should we do? You have a huge number of unemployed people. You have up to 10 million people willing to work. But how many are in formal employment? Only about 1 million. What do you do with the 9 million? World Bank statistics and IMF claim these people are doing agricultural and other activities, but that's not formal, secure, decent work. Government must create, industry must create jobs, and that's a crisis we'll be discussing. And like I said, the president finally reappeared after huge speculations. The praise singers and his men seem to be very annoyed that Zambians are asking where the president is. It's a legitimate question. President Hakainde himself repeatedly asked about where the president was, his predecessor. It is normal. People wake up at 03, 04 to go and vote for a president. When he's missing, he misses key events without explanation. And remember, this is a president that had said last week that there are too many holidays, and for him there's no holiday. He works every day. He says he works 24/7. So when his praise singers began to say, no, he's resting, people were ridiculing them. Just last week you were saying this is a 24/7 president. You were saying there are too many holidays, and you were saying he works all the time. So where is he? Why is he derelict on his duties? These are presidential functions. The Zambia International Trade Fair, for the last 59 years, other than 1 year when Mwanawasa didn't open it in 2007, has always been opened by a Republican president, usually accompanied by a special guest president from the region. It's an international fair, and it attracts people from China, from Singapore, from South Korea, from Nigeria, from Ghana, from the US, from Canada. It only comes once a year. Where was the president? Where was a regional invited guest? We are aware that invitations were sent and invitations were declined. You know, in diplomacy, when you don't answer, you don't have to answer at all. You just keep quiet. So the Secretary of Cabinet had even moved the date because we understood that the guest that he had invited was not available on the set dates of 1st January. So the holidays which host the trade fair were moved and pushed to a week later. Still more, this guest didn't turn up. This was a huge inconvenience to exhibitionists because the people that come to exhibit, the people that come to exhibit sometimes travel and arrive in the country many days before. So imagine pushing the holiday by a week. So the exhibitions couldn't, they were totally, those that were exhibiting were totally inconvenience and added cost were given to them. I am privileged to have on me two special guests. I've got Mr. Patrick Chilufya from the United Kingdom. He's a regular caller to my program, and we invited him to be on this program. And I've got Father Oscar, Donosco, as we call him. Father Oscar Mwansa Pombo is with me, and we will be taking up these discussions, and we'll be having this discussion together. Let me just invite my guest and welcome him. Father, good evening.
Hello, good evening, Mr. Mwamba. Good evening, Honorable Mwamba. Good evening, the viewers, and good evening, my colleague, Mr.
Yeah. Father,
thank you
there is
very
another matter. There is another matter of concern. We just learned of the Speaker's ruling where she's ruled that she cannot be swayed by external forces. Can you imagine she's calling a constitutional court judgment an external ruling? We'll be discussing that. The president appeared and made some remarks on the ECL family. I'll bring you on to discuss that. And my dear brother Chilufya from the UK, let me just greet him. My brother Chilufya, good evening and welcome to this program.
Thank you, Ambassador Mwamba.
It's a pity you can't connect live, so we'll keep you on the phone like this. You join the debate as we go on. So let me just finish my introductory remarks.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you. So Chilufya is hanging on the phone. Technology has failed us. You'll be able to join us alongside and you'll be discussing with us. I'll ask him to introduce himself, but Father Pombo, you already know him. We hosted him the other day. The president made some remarks today when he met the president. He says, first of all, he said he has changed things. The state of our nation was terrible. A matter I've always disagreed with him. In fact, things are worse now. The shrinking democratic space, torture against political opponents, mass arrest against political opponents, the laws he has passed, weaponizing, for example, crimes against speech. He literally is outlawing criticism, and the heavy penalties that come with him, including life sentences, are scaring our people. So he has made the environment far worse than he found it. You have people now in exile. You have an environment in our country that's extremely oppressive, and our people are silent. But I was telling the American ambassador that things are okay. Let me just play those videos as Father, you organize yourselves and we begin to discuss these topics.
Relationship, government to government, business to business, government to business, and vice versa, and person to person. Thank you very much. So I also thought that it's important that now we are in this space of a reasonable achievement in debt restructuring. In our view, Ambassador, huge achievement from where we were 4 years ago on the rule of law and order in the streets, in the bus stops. It was chaotic here. And I can appreciate for those who were not here at the time. I don't think you can imagine what the situation was. It's difficult to imagine, humanly possible. We're happy that it's not a one-shot solution, it's a process. But we are happy that we're by and large restored law and order. We know we have now new issues lingering around mineral resources, illegal mining, unsafe mining, informal trade. We want to agree with you. These are some of the areas we want to discuss to see how we can manage these areas. But by and large, I'm talking about the rule of law. We set out also to reconstruct the mining sector. So as a major sector, which we always, as a country, have relied on, although we now want to drive diversification, but we cannot leave alone a key sector, such as the mining sector. And for the first time in the history of our country's mining experience, we believe this year will achieve close to, if not, 1 million tons of copper. And that's why you see a reasonable appreciation in the local currency, because the supply side of dollars is actually US dollars, I must say, not Canadian dollars, but US dollars. is the flows, the supply side is improving. And it's very important to us who are still largely import dependent that we can improve the supply of dollars. So it's our focal area, as I said, US dollars. I don't have to tell the story. I think you've seen for yourselves the restoration of,
Let me just provide a quick update in responding to the president. There's a part we'll play later that I think we have to get the discussion going, where he says he's speaking to the family. I spoke to members of the family. First of all, there are no talks. This is similar to what his minister stated last week. His minister, Chief Government Spokesperson Cornelius Mwetwa, spoke to SABC and I think ENCA and claimed that they had entered into negotiations with the family. And what did we see? What we saw instead was an amendment to the court process, where we saw the Attorney General making an amendment to the cause in the matter in the Pretoria High Court and demanding that both the family and the South African government surrenders the remains of the late president to President Hakainde Hichilema's government. Now that was very, very shocking. They were no longer in a mood to negotiate. So while Cornelius Mwetwa was informing the South African audience through SABC that they've engaged in negotiations, which were none, they had sent no one. No one had called or phoned or spoken to the family. And from nowhere, we just heard that there was this negotiation. There was none. And what did we see next? Is the Attorney General with an amendment, including the Minister of International Relations in the matter, who is South African government. And the amended demand was that the remains of the late president must be repatriated to Zambia. The family, the court must compel the family and the South African government to take those remains to Zambia, to President Hakainde Hichilema's government. So today the president has repeated these assertions. They are not true. No one has spoken to the family yet. We are aware from the time the late president died that there are many people informally, either on their own accord or volition, who, wish to speak to the family. But the family has very simple demands, and those demands can only be met by the president. And the president has failed to meet those demands. So what's the purpose of these so-called talks when you can't meet the demands? Heads of states were involved at the beginning. Jacob Zuma was sent. You returned his plane. Zimbabwe sent in the vice president to negotiate with the president, to advise him to honor the wishes of the late president and the wishes of the family. That was spanned. President Cyril Ramaphosa got involved, and the standoff continued, and he had to send his minister to say, we have no choice, but according to our laws, we ought to respect what the law says. And that's what happened. And then they desperately launched that court action, suing the widow and all the children, and one of, I think, the nephews to the late president, and suing the undertaker, the company that was to handle the remains of the late president. And last week we saw they added the South African government through the Minister of International Relations. I think after an uproar and how ill-advised the entire matter was. They made an amendment on Friday and removed the Minister of International Relations of South Africa from the court suit. So as before I came to this broadcast, there are no talks. There are some people that are in South Africa trying to talk, but essentially they are not talks. Let me bring my guest to help me with the discussion. Bachilufia, just quickly introduce yourself for our audience. We are now, with, if you are watching, you can see our Catholic father who's based in Italy on the screen with me, and you are on the phone. Just introduce yourself to our audience.
Yeah, thank you so much, Muumbu. And good evening to all Zambians watching all over the world. My name is Patrick Chilufya, and I just wish to make a disclaimer. I'm not a member of any political party. I used to be a member of the UPND until I resigned a year ago. So I'm coming here as a neutral person and as a patriotic Zambian. I'm a Zambian based in the UK. I'm an accountant specializing in financial management and control, and also have interest in leadership, governance, and corporate governance, risk and ethics. And I'm also
you were writing a book. How far is that book? We are waiting for that leadership book.
Yes, I'm in the process of writing a book in leadership, and the biggest chapter in that book is on Zambia. Actually, I'm planning maybe just to have a separate book on Zambia, so which means I'll end up writing 2 books. God willing, my plan is for these two books to be published just before the election so that Zambians can read. Because one of the books talks about leadership in Zambia. And according to my research, it's taken me about 25 to 30 years research. One of the reasons why I left Zambia was that I was frustrated with the politics. And I wanted to find out how other countries have been able to develop, some of them with similar resources like ours, and some of them with no resources. And I came to realize that the biggest problem why we haven't developed is leadership. So I had to research all the presidents who have ruled Zambia from Kaunda up to today. And everything is I used to think corruption was the biggest challenge until I realized that leadership actually is the biggest problem that has made Zambia, not to be developed. And corruption is actually a symptom of bad leadership. Yeah. So over to you, Muumbu.
Wonderful. Good introduction. Father, let's delve into the meat. We have the issue of Mufumbe. We'll start with the issue of Mufumbe. We give our views. We'll go to the next topic. The president has finally appeared in public. Then we'll go to the speaker's issue. The remarks by the U.S. ambassador, Michael Gonzalez. I think people were excited to see the president after there were speculations about his missing and his purported ill health, that they didn't even pay attention to what the U.S. ambassador said. He said some serious things, like how the U.S. businessmen are literally shunning our country, the concerns around corruption. We'll play that. But let me open this with you, Father. Let's start with you on the state of the nation, the Mufumbe issue. We have 18 feared dead, and I keep on using that number because from the records we seem to have, the number is not 3 like the government is saying. 11 police officers injured. We've seen videos of 2 police officers, 1 female, that probably died. We've seen the videos. But this is a crisis of proportion that is reflecting the crisis in the country. Let me invite you for your views about this matter.
Yeah, I think we talked about this argument even last time. For those who have just joined the program, good evening, everybody. I'm Don Oscar, calling from here, from Italy. And as my colleague, Mr. Chilufya, also mentioned, I'm just a citizen of the Republic of Zambia, and my passion to participate into the governance of the country, first of all, comes from my mission. We have a pledge. We have a mission, which is three-dimension mission. So we are called to govern the people. We are called to sanctify the people, and we are called to evangelize or to preach to the people. Three major responsibilities of the clergy in the Catholic Church, specifically to govern, because if you don't understand, you don't know how to govern a people, you cannot be called to such a responsibility. Very high and noble responsibility I have to acknowledge. And so we sanctify the people, we govern the people, and we evangelize just like Jesus Christ himself. So that said, I do not belong to any political party. I have passion in leadership. I have passion because of also my experience as well in leadership, not only in the church but also in the civil servant. What happened in Mufumbu? I think we discussed about that issue. And of course, it's a sad story. Why do I say it was a sad story? You can remember, my colleagues, those who are listening to us, the bad thing about this story was the conduct of what we were told were police officers. And the conduct of we all of you have seen also those videos that private vehicles has been damaged. Those electric pumps have been damaged, and I personally, I thought the presence of the police officers in that area was going to bring sanity and order, because that is the responsibility of the police, to bring order and to protect the lives of the citizens. I remember very well in 2021 when President Hakainde Hichilema had to convince us with beautiful words, I have to acknowledge, that he was not going to lead the country the way he thought PF were leading the country. He's underlined some violences. You remember Tikuli Matawa at Intercity, some marketplaces. And then he said, and I repeat, I am made from a different cloth, and so I'm not going to govern the way this country has been governed for the last 7 years, which corresponds to the time Isiel was a president of the Republic of Zambia. So we were so overwhelmed, a lot of the youth especially have to acknowledge that, they were so overwhelmed because of this promise. But then, seeing what has happened in Mufumbu, really everyone I think is disappointed. Even the UPND themselves. Hopefully some can call and maybe confirm or deny this experience. I think even the UPND themselves are disappointed. I remember our President Hakainde Hichilema mentioned some 4 names. I'm not going to repeat those names. One of them is in Samansama, but he mentioned about 4 names, and he said, these people have died because of the work and professional work of the police officers, of the men in uniforms. And he said, in our leadership, in our government, such experience was going to be condemned and was not going to be tolerated. So now here we come at a very sad experience where The same youth who were promised to have licenses, you remember that issue? The same youth who were promised to have partnership to the investors, the same youth who were promised, and they said, we are not going to call you Jelabos. I remember very well. We are not going to call you Jelabos. We are going to call you small-scale miners. And you are not going to be anonymous, but we are going to recognize you in the business industry. Now, the same youth, now we have seen, I think even the Home Affairs Minister can also confirm, we have seen youth complaining. They're complaining. How can you treat us like this? How many things that you promised to us? Now look at what is happening to us. So it's a dark page in the UPND government. I have to acknowledge that it's a dark page, which as Zambians, I'm also sad. I have to say, I'm also saddened about the episode. I hear last time when we had this conversation, Mr. Mwamba, I remember one of the callers said, well, it was only one person who died, or it was only two people who died. But then, for me, there is no difference between one life or 100 lives. We are talking about a human being. So even if, as it is purported, the only two lives were lost, or as many of the youth are saying that probably more than 18 people might have been lost in this episode, sad episode. So it doesn't matter whether 18 or one life. It's like somebody cooking some eggs and will say, well, how many minutes does it take for 18 eggs to boil or for one egg to boil? It's the same. It's an egg. The time is the same. So the life of one single or one individual who is a Zambian is as precious as the lives of more than 18 people who might have succumbed in these sad incidents. So, you see, we talked about this thing and we say, well, what amazes me, I have to admit, what amazes me is why can't this be done professionally? The police engage the people, they listen to the people, they take note of whoever might have been lost, and then they solve this issue professionally. The way I know myself, because I have my friends who are police officers, the way they work, normally police are so professional, and this thing, they were going to handle it by understanding how many people have forwarded the names of those who are lost, how many of them, and how many have they discovered, how many bodies have they discovered. This is what I think the Zambian people were expecting. But
Thank you.
it's not
Father.
healthy for the country. It's not healthy at the moment, but in the country, we start accusing each other 8 to 18 people. I don't think it's healthy.
Thank you, Father. Let me bring in Mr. Chilufia. Kindly give your remarks about Mufumbwe and what you think must be done.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ambassador Mwamba, and thank you so much, Father Mbombo. I hope the viewers can hear me clearly.
Yes, they can.
Yeah, Mwamba, one of the reasons why we supported HH and UPND to remove PF was because of these issues. You know, there was no order in the country, there was no leadership, cadreism and perception of corruption. You remember the fire engines, you know, which were costing $1 million. And we brought in this government. We thought this government is a methodical government. Is a government, HH promised leadership. I remember at one time I was saying, Chimbwino plan, Ichimonwa, we are going to bring Ichimonwa. And Bamwamba, through my research, the problems Zambia is facing today, to start with Bamwamba, Zambia is a place that exemplifies scarcity in the midst of poverty, in the midst of plenty, and poverty in the midst of abundance. The country is so rich that it's unbelievable. But because of bad leadership, we are where we are now, the sixth poorest country in the world, from the second richest country in Africa at independence. We were actually richer than China. And so, Bamwamba, when you look at the issue of Mufumbu, it's so sad, and whether one person or 7 people have died, lives have been lost. But again, from what we are hearing from the ground, people are saying it's more than 2 people. So, and we expected a government that should be accountable to the people, transparent, and also a government that is responsible for good things happening and also responsible for the bad things. If it was in the UK, there could have been an inquiry here, serious inquiry into the situation in Mufumbu. And also, the Prime Minister or whoever would have come live on TV and apologize. Not because, it's the police. If the police blunders, it's the president who has blundered. Because the president appointed the commander, president is the commander-in-chief of all armed forces. So that's how democratic countries are run. That's where there is true leadership. Bamwamba, the same confusion that was happening in PF, Kasenseli, similar situation. But PF messed up. And when you look at the issue of KCM, but PF messed up. So we were expecting this government to come up with a very comprehensive mining policy. The problem with the PF government, under Sata, under Edgar Lungu, and the government now, Bamwamba, the reason why Zambia is going through this, Zambia is poor, is we're just going around the circles. The problem Zambia is facing now is not the problem of PF. It's not a problem of UPND. It's a collective responsibility, consequences of the decisions, the actions of all presidents who have ruled Zambia, including Kaunda, including HH. So when you look at Mufumbu, we should have learned from Kasenseli. And then if we had a proper mining policy, when you look at Botswana, they've got a proper mining policy. Under Levi Mwanawasa, Mangande initiated a project to go and see how the Swanas have managed to protect their diamonds, because we were losing emeralds, because diamonds are similar to emeralds. And they went to Botswana. They learned how that government protects their minerals. They should be found somewhere in the Ministry of Mines and Ministry of Finance. It was initiated by the Cabinet Office and it was tabled before Cabinet. And the point, Bamwamba, I'm trying to drive home is, if we had a proper policy, we should have known how to deal with that situation. Because in Botswana, all minerals belong to the Swanas, belong to the government. So nobody would be given a license. There will be no corruption in giving mining licenses. And the government is involved in every mining activity. So there's Ministry of, diamonds are protected by the police, the soldiers, including intelligence. And under Kaunda, minerals like gold, emeralds, they were classified as reserve minerals. So they were even above copper. So what does that mean to be reserve minerals? If you look at Kajam, under Kaunda, you wouldn't enter Kajam area. All those areas where there were emeralds, you cannot easily enter. They were controlled by mine police. So, and Wamwamba, we have had a mapping of the minerals in Zambia. So the government knows where the minerals are. So when the Kasenseli issue started, you don't just wake up and start firefighting. There should be a policy, that when such a situation, when there is a gold rush or gold has been discovered, because Wamwamba, gold is the money of the future. So if we don't protect gold, which belongs to the Zambians, Zimbabwe, just our neighbor there, they've been stockpiling gold in their reserve bank. Zimbabwe now has got gold worth $7 billion. The UK has got gold worth $640 billion. And they use that to cushion the pound. That's why the pound is the strongest currency in the world. So what the government should have done is to have a policy like a place like Muumbu. They should have immediately moved in. They know that there's corruption. The police cannot man that place. They should have gone in, intelligence, everybody, fence the place, put electric fencing, cameras, even put a police post, open a temporary police post to protect the minerals of the Zambians. Bamwamba, apart from Kaunda, only Mwanawasa had a very comprehensive mining policy, because mining, Bamwamba, is the mainstay of our economy. And if Zambians cannot benefit from mining, if Zambians, small-scale miners, cannot be given licenses and funded to do mining, Zambia is doomed, because we keep on borrowing. Where are we going to get the cash? The only place we can get the cash is from the mines. There is no country that has developed using using foreign aid or donations or foreigners. It's only Zambians who can develop Zambia. And the mining policy this government should have is that we should control those minerals. I'm not saying we should privatize them. We should at least use like the Botswana formula, 50-50. Because if we don't do that, Ramwamba, they will still, either they will transfer price or they will cook the figures. We've had issues of companies not paying tax. And Mwanawasa came up with a very good policy on mining. Mwanawasa said Mwanawasa's economic development was anchored on copper, on mining. Because Mwanawasa understood without mining, Zambia cannot develop. What did he do? Introduce the windfall tax. Because he realized that if you say we're going to collect a tax, from sales, they will transfer price the sales. If we say we're going to collect royalties from the production, they will cook the production. Because, the CCMHI, in some mines, we own 0%. We've sold the shares. In some, we own 22%. We are minority shareholders. Do we know what they produce? Do we know what they sell? Bamwamba, I was reading a report written by one of the UK charities. It's called War on Want. This report was produced in 2015, and but it covered most of the period of Microsat. So from 2012 to 2015, but it was produced at the end of 2015. In that report, it was quoted that Zambia was losing $3 billion from 2012. from tax evasion, transfer pricing. And in that report, Bamwamba, our finance minister then, may so rest in peace, Chikwanda, was quoted saying, Zambia has got the most, what can I say? The tax, what do we call it? Tax incentive regime to foreign miners. The best tax incentive regime to foreign miners, but Zambians don't benefit out of the. Why are we giving it? He was asking a question, but the question he was a finance minister. Why didn't he act? And then Mao Sampa, the PF leader, was also quoted saying that we are losing money because of transfer pricing. So if 2012, 2015, Mao Sampa and Chikwanda knew that these guys are crooking us, why didn't we? Because every country, Mwamba, Botswana, South Africa, the UK, they've got anti-transfer pricing policies. Because what these companies do is they shift the sales to places where tax is very low. They call them tax havens. Like now, I guess the owners of Mopani now, they're shifting the sales of Mopani copper to Dubai because our minister confirmed in Parliament not long ago that copper is sold in Dubai, and I was so surprised. It didn't make sense. Then after some few days, I realized that no, Dubai is a tax haven. So these guys they are also now shifting the sales into Dubai because it's a tax haven. So these are the things the government could have done. But we've got a minister of finance who stopped something that was going to give Zambians billions of dollars. When Mwanawasa and Mangande may their souls rest in peace, I regard these guys as some of the greatest leaders Zambia has ever had. They said, no, I don't care what everybody's going to say. That's what Mwanawasa said. We're going to introduce this. And all the mines, Mwamba, agreed. The first year of enforcement, 2008, just when Mwanawasa died, we got $485 million on top of what we were getting from the mines. And what Mangande did was he had to put the money in a separate account, at the Bank of Zambia. So I've got an idea what Mangande was trying to do. Mangande was trying to create a sovereign wealth fund so that we can now use the money from the copper and create a vehicle to develop our country, because Zambians need jobs. We need medication. But what happened, our current finance minister and Rupia Banda, they came and reversed something that was going to put medicine in the hospital. Can you believe it, Bamwamba? The moment and the money was given back to the mines, we started borrowing. So the borrowing, Bamwamba, we saw in PF. Let people not lie to you. The borrowing we started in PF was started by Arabi and the current finance minister.
Yeah.
So Bamwamba.
So, my dear brother, let me just help. You've raised fundamental. Just a minute. You've raised fundamental issues. I've also held that if we're very serious as a country, probably would have investigated Honorable Stumbeko Msokotwane. As Patrick has highlighted, he comes in 2008. There's a good mining policy where we are getting tax revenue from the windfall tax. And in fact, the figure is $600 million that we got in 2008. He abolishes that. He returns in 2021. Zambia has been getting almost $1 billion from 2019 using the mineral royalty non-deductible tax. That's the first thing he abolishes. And our tax revenue from the mining sector drops from 1 billion, 1.1 billion, 2020, 2021, 2022. You see we consecutively got about $1 billion each year. And the revenue drops to $300 million, you will beg to ask, who does Musokotwane work for? How come when he comes on the scene as a Minister of Finance, it benefits the mines and it doesn't benefit our country? We lost billions in 2008 and there was no loan. Remember, we had just written off our billions of dollars, $7 billion. There was only $500 million loan in 2008, 500 million. When he left a bill of $3.8 billion loan by 2011. Many people say, what did the PF find in 2011? The PF found a $3.8 billion loan that Musokotwane had borrowed between 2008 and 2011. Currently, he's borrowed from 2021 to date, he's borrowed about $4 billion. They found a foreign debt of $11.9 billion, and now it's standing in excess of $15.4 billion. This is excluding the domestic debt that he has also piled up. We'll move to the next issue, and Father Oscar, I'll ask you to come and give your views. Let's play the video by the speaker. On 27th June, the Constitutional Court, in a landmark ruling, shelved the constitutional making process in Parliament. And when Constitutional Court shelved the bill, they even gave guidance. In fact, they had found that the president had breached about 11 constitutional provisions. If the opposition had the number, this president would have been impeached. He breached the issues of sovereignty, he breached the issue of legislative authority, he breached his own presidential executive powers. The Constitutional Court has outlined the powers that he abused by attempting to amend the Constitution in the manner he did. But you have a speaker today who says, no, we can't be ruled by external forces. The amendment is before me and the amendment will be considered. And she says she regards the Constitutional Court as an external force. Is she serious? Are we serious as a country? The Constitutional Court has given directives, shelve this plan, allow a technical committee to then gather views, follow the law in amending the Constitution. This is not a preserve of the Speaker or the President. These powers are vested in the President. So Wachilufia and Father, I'll come and ask you, let's hear what the Speaker said, and then I'll invite your views.
And members of the public. It is clear from the above list that the Select Committee intended to consult widely on Bill 7. Honorable members, Standing Order 121 of the National Assembly, Standing Orders 2024, is instructive on the procedure to be followed when a member sponsoring the bill desires to defer or withdraw it. Standing Order 121.1 provides as follows, and I quote, a member who sponsors a bill may defer or withdraw the bill at any time by formally writing to the Speaker stating his or her decision, end of quote. Honorable members, as the Select Committee was executing its mandate, on Thursday, 26 June 2025, my office received communication from the Honorable Minister of Justice informing me of the deferment of Bill 7 of 2025. The reason for the deferment was to allow for further consultations with the stakeholders. As the House will recall, I made an announcement on the same day and consequently suspended the sittings of the Select Committee. I wish to reiterate that according to National Assembly of Zambia Standing Order 2024, the Constitution of Zambia Amendment Bill number 7 of 2025 was properly before the House. The deferment that occurred on Thursday, 26 June 2025 was in accordance with the procedures for deferring a bill as outlined in our standing orders. It is important at this stage for me to be categorical that in line with the doctrine of exclusive cognizance, which I've extensively traversed in the preceding paragraphs, if the sponsor of Bill 7, that is the Honorable Minister of Justice, decides to proceed with the subsequent stages of Bill 7, this House will resume consideration of the bill. This is notwithstanding the judgment of the Constitutional Court in the Munia Zulu case. This is because the Constitutional Court or any other external body, for that matter, cannot arrest a legislative process that has been set in motion and is under consideration in Parliament.
Father, this speaker is unrepentant. She expelled 9 members of Parliament on the allegation that when the High Court ruled against them, she said the court had ruled and therefore they shouldn't be in Parliament. It took the Constitutional Court to reinstate those MPs. She has misread the Constitution various times, and she has been ordered by the courts to take action or not to take action. Look at the impasse regarding the changes in the PF. She says the matters are either in court. She chooses to respect the court when it suits her. In this case, she's saying the matter is active before court and the matter must go ahead. Please give us your views.
Yeah, I was listening. I listened to what the speaker told the Zambian people and the members of parliament in particular, and I was confused. I have to say, I was confused. Why was I was confused? You see, it's very fresh for the Zambian people, and it's very fresh. We witnessed a judgment which was, I think, the first in its nature, according to my memory. It was first in its nature, and that judgment was regarding the eligibility of ECL. Allow me to go back a little bit before I can talk about this. Let me go back to that eligibility case of ECL. I understood that the judges by that time who were now appointed, some of them, they were new judges who were put on the Concord, and the new judges came out with something which was in Latin, and I never thought about that. So they said that ECL was judged per incuriam. That was the word, per incuriam. So now here in Italy, we study also Latin and things like that. So I was going, first of all, to go and find out what was the meaning of per incuriam. Here, the offices of a bishop is called curia. So curia in Latin, it means taking care of. So when there was that judgment that ECL was not eligible per incuriam, which means they went against the Constitutional Court, which judged some years ago that ECL was eligible. It confused most of us. But then they explained, they said, well, probably the people who were on the panel by that time, they did not consider certain things. I'm not going to enter into legal language here. The Zambian people, I think, are going to excuse me. I'm not a lawyer. Allow me to make some mistakes because this is just a layperson speaking with maybe something which regards a lawyer, especially. So that per incuriam case, everyone in Zambia, we started to not noticing. Oh my goodness, ECL was eligible before, but he will not be eligible in future. He says, why? I asked the question. Then I was told, per incuriam, he will not be eligible, and that was the Concord. Now here comes the same Concord gives a judgment on Bill 7 and says it lacked serious, it has serious might have had serious implications, because we talked about this also with Dr. Kasonso last time. The methodology, the time was not enough, and the process itself was not correct. The process. So now, if the Concord has ruled in that case, and today the speaker says, and I think she made reference to the Standing Order 2024, which was applied in 2025. 2025, gentlemen, this year. Who is ruling the country in this year is President Hakainde Hichilema. So this Standing Order is 2025, which has been considered. And the speaker says, as long as the Justice Minister who presented the bill into Parliament did not withdraw the bill, then the speaker is going to consider it. So, I don't know what I can answer myself, but we are going to ask a question. Does it mean the speaker does not respect the Concord this time? When the same speaker respected the Concord on the ECL per incuriam judgment. Here, gentlemen, I am confused. I thought we had already closed that chapter. We talked about this with Dr. Kasonso, and we said, I think there was no time. The stakeholders, here now the speaker says probably there will be some time maybe to go back to the stakeholders. But the same stakeholders we talked about, the Law Association of Zambia, the council, the CCC, the Catholic Bishops' Council said there was not enough time. If there was not enough time, please, 4 months ago, how can we have time now when we are just remaining, Mr. Mwamba, with less than 10 months to the closure of the Parliament? Hence, the start of campaigning period. How are we going to have? This is so confusing.
Thank you, Father.
It's very confusing.
Thank you, Father. Thank you, Father Donosco. Bachelufia, you've heard what the matter is on the Constitution. Has been a developing matter where the Speaker has ruled that, as far as she's concerned, the amendment process is before before Parliament. The person who had brought the matter to court, the Minister of Justice, just deferred the matter, and the matter will remain active. And she says, despite the Concord ruling. But what did the Concord rule? The Concord was very clear. The process undertaken breached the Constitution. The President breached various powers and functions of the Constitution, including sovereignty and legislative authority. He also abused presidential powers, because there's a manner in which the Constitution belongs to the people. It doesn't belong to anyone. The President, the Speaker, and everyone else, these are creatures of the Constitution. They are created by the Constitution, which is made by the people. And basic minimum standards was not met. But Madam Nelly Muti says no. She says no. The matter is before me, and under my powers, no one can direct me what to do. No external body or authority can direct what to do. And she appears that they'll proceed with the constitutional amendment, despite the firm, clear ruling from the Constitutional Court. Please, your views.
Thank you, Amwamba. And I hope the viewers are listening. Bamwamba, we are in trouble, and our democracy is under serious attack. You know, we've got this government that we supported so much because we thought they were going to enhance our democratic credentials. But from the way things are happening, You know, these guys are trying to destroy everything that has been built from Chiluba, you know, when Zambia became a multi-party state, you know, consolidation of democracy under Mwanawasa. We are in trouble. To start with, Bamwamba, what do you expect from a partisan speaker? You can see from the way she talks that she's not patriotic, and our country has not developed because we've got unpatriotic people who have no interest who have no national interest. You know, we've mentioned about Musokotwane, you know, the speaker, and you know, we are in trouble, Bamwamba. But let me come back to the Concord issue. Remember, most Zambians, they know the law of contract. That's the simpler thing. They know a law of contract, you know. And in a law of contract, where there is a breach of contract, if the court says there was a breach of contract, no matter how good that contract was, if there is a breach of contract, that contract is now and void. It's a nullity. You cannot wake up and say, hey, Bamwamba, you know, if Bamwamba went with you into a contract and Bamwamba, you breached the fundamental clauses of that contract, and then the court says that contract is now and void, you cannot come back to me and say, Bachilufia, let's just negotiate. There were very good clauses in that contract, and let's start over. That contract is as good as dead. If you, Bamwamba, and I wants to go into that contract again, we have to start all over. So same applies to Bill 7. Bill 7 is a nullity. And you know, Bamwamba, Iminga is dead. Iminga to Bamwamba. I think my assumption is they knew the judgment, because the judgment came the day after they announced in Parliament
the deferment.
They are deferring. Bamwamba, there's no rocket. You don't need rocket science not to know, because they knew that if they didn't withdraw it a day before the judgment, you know, somebody would have taken that ruling into Parliament and said, Speaker, here is the ruling before you. Can the executive withdraw but you know, Mamwamba, they don't want to follow the democratic principles. So, Mamwamba, why do we have, in a democratic dispensation, why do we have three wings of government? The executive, the judiciary, and the legislature. To start with, this is where checks and balances starts from. The real checks and balances starts from these three wings of government. So the executive, which in Zambia has got so much power, starting from 1973, when Zambia was declared. So now the idea is these three wings of government have to be separate from each other. They have to be autonomous. The judiciary and the legislature, they have to be autonomous. They have to be separate from the executive to make sure that they are checking each other. So the judiciary's role is to make sure that that guy who has got power, HH, does not have excess power. Because Bamwamba, excess power or absolute power corrupts. So they are checking this guy, the executive. No, we don't want you to have excess power. You know, the minister of the legal affairs minister falls under the executive. And also the other duty of the judiciary is to interpret the law. And in this case, somebody went to the judiciary and said, look at these executive guys. They want to impose this illegal thing on us. And then the Concord says, wait, this is our duty to make sure that these guys don't have excessive power and to interpret. And they interpreted. They are saying they've breached 9 articles of the Constitution. But what does that say? It says it's then, which means Bill 7 is now and void. It's a nullity, it's dead. So what the court is saying, go back to your drawing tables if you want to take it back to Parliament and start from, make sure that all these 9 articles are not breached. You know, because the Constitution starts with we the people. So starts with Mwamba, Kasonde, Hambulo, you know, start with them. Start with the people in Southern Province. Start with the Tonga. Start with the Bemba. Go to them and start all over. It doesn't mean you can bring it to Parliament. But Bamwamba, there is so much unlawlessness in Zambia. You know, the Constitutional Court has told the executive, we've done our job. That law shouldn't be in Parliament. And it's period, Bamwamba. It shouldn't be there. But you know, Bamwamba, okay, let me go to Parliament. Parliament is not to start now. Their job is not to fight with the Constitutional Court. Whether their decision is wrong or bad, they have to implement what the Constitutional Court says. If the Constitutional Court says ABCD were wrongly dismissed in Parliament and they should be reinstated, they have to be reinstated. Whether the Constitutional Court was wrong or correct, they have to be reinstated. They are doing their job. And the other job of Parliament is an oversight. So, my Speaker, I don't think managed to perform oversight royal, because oversight is to make sure that this law, this judgment is implemented. Our Speaker, to make sure that we've got this judgment and we've got this bill before us. This bill cannot go ahead. This is my job as an oversight leader in Parliament. So, Bamwamba, let me talk about Bill 7, Bamwamba. And this Bill 7, it's a messed up thing. They talk about delimitation, Bamwamba. I think Basango alluded to that. I've been researching about delimitation. Bamwamba, for Zambians who don't know, delimitation is not about creating constituencies. Zambians should be reading, not if you have social media. Baka misendere chalo, muletamba. America has got a delimitation law in their constitution, and they've had it for 57 years. In that 57 years, American population has doubled, but they've got only 500 or 600 members of Congress, with a population of 300 and something million. Zambia is a population of 200 and something. Actually, in comparison to America, Zambia has excess members of parliament, because America has got 500 and something, with a population of 300 and something million. Bamwamba, Mwebana Zambia, America in 57 years, they've been doing delimitation every 10 years. They've never increased the numbers of members of the Congress. What America does use delimitation for is to align, they use it to align the borders. I'll give you an example. The biggest constituency in Lusaka is Kanyama, maybe, has got 500 and something members, people. The next constitution on the border with Kanyama has got 24,000 people. So delimitation now, what will happen is delimitation now will alter the boundary of Kanyama so that they share the people with the next constituency. So it's not for, but then, Mwamba, there's a lawfulness in Zambia. before the delimitation report was presented to us, to Parliament, the bill was gazetted. Who does that? So it's like we were giving a blank check to the executive because nobody knew how those 45 MPs were going to be selected. You know, the youth, the women, the disabled, nobody knows. And even where are those delimitation constituencies were going to come from? Imagine the bill is in Parliament and you discover that 40 of them are coming from the Zambezi regions, which is the stronghold of UPND. So now, Bamwamba, this brings me to the last point now. Let me finish this. Bamwamba and fellow Zambians, listen and listen carefully. If Bill 7 had gone through, Zambia was going to descend in what is not what they call tyranny, or autocracy, or authoritarian state. Why am I saying that? Let me qualify that. Mungu mfwe. I talked about the three wings of government. They have to be autonomous. They have to check each other. They have to make sure that the executive is not doesn't have excessive power. So at the moment, the Zambian president is Kaunda was even more powerful. At one point, Kaunda was the president of Zambia, was the vice president of Zambia, was the party secretary general of UNIP, was the president of UNIP, was the chairman of Indeco, was the chairman of Zimco. So he controlled literally everything. So we've got now a president of Zambia today, HH. So HH has been given the mandate to appoint ministers, permanent secretaries, including government institution. So HH appoints the boss of anti-corruption, the boss of enforcement agencies. So literally, and HH is the chairman of IDC. So literally, this person, HH, His Excellence, already has got excess powers. Now, judiciary, according to, on paper, judiciary is independent, is autonomous, but it's not. You know, they say the judiciary has got the security of tenure, but it's not absolute, Ramwamba. Why is it not absolute? Because one, the president appoints the judges. Look at what happened to the Concord. The moment the president went and appointed those three judges, changed the composition, what happened? The judgment that was final, Lungu is eligible. We all knew Lungu wasn't eligible. And there was nobody who was going to change it unless the constitution is changed. But they changed it. Because whose allegiance was those three? And Bamwamba, some of those judges, they said they were not qualified. So Bamwamba, if I'm appointed by the president on partisan or royalty basis, as opposed to, or mediocrity, as opposed to meritocracy, whose royalty, whose allegiance do I have? My allegiance is to the president. So the judges are in trouble. And not only that, but they are not properly funded. They are at the mercy of Musokotwane. Then the most important point, Bamwamba, is that they are to put a safeguard that judges should be protected from dismissed anytime by the appointing authority. So they created this vehicle, this institution called the Judicial Service Commission, so that it can protect the judges. But again, Bamwamba, when you look at the Judicial Service Commission,
let me come in. Let me come in, my brother. Let me come. Let me come in, my brother.
Let me just wind up a few minutes.
Okay. I want to open the phone lines. I want to discuss our other limb, the president appeared today. But quickly, just finish your thoughts.
Let me
Then
just
after this, we invite our callers.
Yeah, I'll be less than a minute. Let me just finish my point. So, Bamwamba, the organization, the institution that is supposed to make sure that these judges have got a security tenure of office, probably life tenure of office. The chairman is appointed by the president. The director is appointed by the president. And there is a guy called the chief of administration is also appointed by the president. And then parliament, that was the only institution that was standing to protect us. Bill 7 was meant to go and dilute the powers of parliament, which means all the institutions in Zambia were going to be controlled by the executive. And then Zambia would have descended into tyranny. I rest my case.
Wonderful, my dear brother. Wonderful. Thank you very much. On the qualifications of constitutional court judges, it was totally unfair because the president had appointed someone who was not qualified, who even the Law Association of Zambia refused to give commendations. Arnold Mwetwa Shilimi, the deputy president of the Constitutional Court, is not qualified to sit in the Constitutional Court. Sishua, my dear brother from South Africa, just revealed that Shilimi has just enrolled for a course, I think a master's course, to study human rights now and constitutional matters. This is a man who's already deputy president of the court. Lars refused to give him credence because they looked at his profile. The best he hasn't really practiced the last 15 years. He practiced a bit, in Kenya under PTA Bank, I think, and he's literally been a businessman. He sat on Hakainde Hichilema's a company, from 2018 to 2022 as a board member. That was also another matter of contention. And, he owns a milling plant. It would say, Amaka Milling, if you know that milling mill, Amaka Milling Mill. So he's known as a businessman who's rarely even practiced the law, although, of course, he kept... so about qualifications, while they attempted to undermine and scandalize the three judges, Constitutional Court judges that were fired, if you scrutinize the people that President Hakainde Hichilema appointed, one actually didn't even meet the minimum 10 years, because you need to have served 10 years to be a High Court judge. This man had served nine years and some months. He hadn't met the threshold. And these issues were raised by Lars and even by court process that unfortunately was thrown out. The president, the last limb of our discussion, has been missing in action. There were 3 key issues that he missed. The Zambia International Trade Fair. That's when people noticed, where is the president? He was advertised, a calendar was issued, a program was issued that the president would be in Ndola. There was an advanced team that was in Ndola. Then there was no show. There was even no show by a regional president. This was uncharacteristic. People began to ask, where is the president? On Sunday, there was this big issue that had been brewing of Muumbu. The president sent 2 ministers, Jack Muumbu and Ambrose Lufuma, Minister of Defense and Minister of Home Affairs. And then there was Gonde traditional ceremony, where they had advertised that the president was a guest of honor because he was to hand over the traditional palace that was built for Chief Monzi at a cost of 4 million. Again, the president was no show. So today the president appeared. He even talked about his absence. When we ask about the president, we're not being malicious. We gave an example of the Botswanan president. There was a big day, the day for the founding president in Botswana, and the president was supposed to be a guest of honor. That morning, the president fell ill. His ministers and the Botswanan government didn't create lies. They just said the president is unwell, he has fallen ill, pray for him. We hope that this matter will not be serious. And the event went ahead with a substitute for the president. And true to the words and prayers of the people of Botswana, the following day the president appeared. And people were relieved and they said our prayers have been answered. The other day, the president even traveled to Malawi to a very rigorous 3-day program in Malawi, which was celebrating its 61st national independence. Kateka na omuntu kuti alwala. When you create this secrecy, you'll be forced to create the lies. And when you create the lies, you make the subject a taboo where people can't discuss it. The president is just a human being. The jobs they occupy are terribly rigorous. Sometimes they can be fatigued. Sometimes they can fall ill suddenly. Something can happen. It's normal. Just communicate with the people so that the nation is not plunged into these huge speculation. But today the president met the American ambassador and he discussed 2-3 things. And let's listen to the video. Then I'll ask for your views and we'll open the phone lines. My phone has been buzzing, but we'll allow you to give your views and open the phone lines. Let's start with the president on the rule of law.
Banning KCM 28 shaft, which was out of commission for 23 years, right? If you like, 2-3 presidents before left these problems. Kalengwa mine was out of commission for 47 years. So literally all the 6 presidents before me found that problem, left it in that situation. We have brought back Kalengwa mine. That tells you this government is focused on getting the economy going, because we know that's where jobs are. We know that's where business opportunities are. We know that that's where treasury revenue is to support free education. 2 million kids back in school once we introduced our free education policy. Figures are all, numbers don't lie, right? You compare that to where we were 4 years ago, we had a minus 2.8% GDP. Last year in the West drought, in living memory, we still managed to post 4% GDP. This year, I know my colleagues are conservative, but I like to be aggressive. We think we'll whisper to 6%.
For inviting me and my team to State House, along with your colleagues from Cabinet and the relevant ministries for this meeting. I was saying to the PS earlier, it was 30 years ago tomorrow that I first stepped foot in Zambia, hitchhiking from Namibia to Zimbabwe. And it was then that this country caught my attention. As I think I've told you in the past, my daughter took her first steps in Livingston 15 years ago. So I appreciate this opportunity for us to come together to review the U.S.-Zambia bilateral relationship. A relationship that I think to date has underperformed our potential. We have a history of huge amounts of development assistance that has failed to spur systemic development despite massive potential across this economy and nation. The business environment has not succeeded in attracting American businesses to spur that opportunity to turn into a reality. And in an environment where others have been able to exploit the environment, labor, the laws at the cost of the Zambian people. So today's meeting, I believe, is an opportunity for us to reset the relationship for mutual benefit, a benefit that delivers for both countries and for our peoples. As you no doubt everyone in the world has seen, the United States approach to foreign policy has shifted dramatically over the past 6 months of the Trump administration, shifting most boldly in a place like Zambia from an orientation of a aid or assistance-led model of development to a model of development based in commerce, an issue that you and I have talked about since my very first day in country, that I think we're both very passionate about seeing realized. But also an orientation of shifting beyond words to tangible actions, where the actions will be what resonates rather than the commitments.
So since we live together here, you will know why the president is taking a little bit of not too much pushing things. So I saw in the social media, because I scan social media, they think I'm dying tomorrow. Someone said, he has not been seen, even traditional ceremony. Actually, traditional ceremony last weekend, I sent another minister to represent. It's deliberate. It's a decision I've taken to work on these things. So otherwise, thank you very much. Minister, thank you for coming at short notice. I hope your colleague is on the way. Minister Tyranny is in town. So, but I have the...
You went viral for laying out 10 steps to autocracy. Run us through those steps so we all know.
Okay, so this happens in every nation that has become an autocracy, having been a democracy. So whether we're talking about Brazil with Bolsonaro, or India, or Putin and Russia, the Philippines with Duterte. So start with winning an election. Usually the last one you're going to get to have for real. Number two, you have an expansion of executive power. The president decides he wants more than he's supposed to have. Number three, you start to make the Congress complicit. So you weaken them and you neutralize or neuter the judiciary. Like, oh, I don't know, the Supreme Court giving you unfettered power and saying we don't have the ability to stop things. Then you move on to firing all of the people who know how to make government work. So you gut the civil service. And you do that because you want to break democracy so people forget the stuff that used to get done. So you can't get your Social Security check. So the CDC doesn't know what diseases are anymore. Then you put in place these loyalists, people who are only responsive to you. You put them in charge of the FBI so they go after your enemies. You put them in charge of the Department of Justice, the Department of Defense, so they can signal to their friends and tell them all about the evil plans that you have. Then you make certain that you break how we communicate. So you criticize the media and you create your own echo chamber of propaganda. You call it truth even though you know you're lying. Then you go to the next step, and I call that step 7. It's at step 7, you have to blame someone. You have to blame people for the broken government, for the broken promises. So you go after DEI. You go after the vulnerable, the dispossessed. You go after any community that doesn't look like what you think power should be. While you're doing that, you make certain that you, in step 8, you eliminate anybody who could help them. So you sue law firms that do pro bono cases. You go after philanthropies and accuse them of giving money to the wrong people. You go after colleges and universities that can teach people possibly what else they should know. You get to step 9 and you start to encourage and incentivize private violence. You send the U.S. Marines into spaces they should not be. You send the National Guard in. You kidnap people off of the streets and pretend that's normal, because that's how you quiet dissent, because you make everyone afraid that if they don't do what you want, they might be next. And once you've done those 9 steps, step 10 is easy. That's when you decide there won't be new elections, because everyone's either afraid, poor, broken, or complicit.
Okay. Wow. Well,
thank you very much. It was very important that we play that video at the request of my dear brother, Chilufia, who says, look, let Zambians know about the 10 steps how tyranny emerges, because I think it comes from nowhere. And we seem to be at number 9 already as a country. And that's why when we laugh when the president says, look, the environment was far better in 2021. His approach is even more dangerous because he's using the law. For example, the enactment of those cyber laws is attempting to amend the constitution. He's institutionalizing tyranny and dictatorship. Let's start with Father Oscar. What are your views? The president has reappeared. There's no explanation where he was. There's no explanation if he had a medical episode as speculated. There's no. He has just turned up like everything is normal, and he has just begun to work. You know, for a country that has lost leaders to illness, Zambians have become sensitive about the absence of the president, not because they wish to be malicious, because they've been lied to in the past in regards to Mwanawasa and in regard to Michael Sata. So every time something happens to the president or rumors begin to swell that the president is unwell, people begin to ask those questions, but they're usually dismissed. And the turning up of the president today seems to have just, as is expected, to shut all of us up who ask questions like, where was he? He was advertised to be at this place and he didn't turn up. What is the matter? And then the remarks he made and the views of the American ambassador. Whatever you wish to comment further, let's start with you.
Yeah, thank you very much. You see, I'm having problems also to comment sometimes on what is happening, because President Hakainde Hichilema, the way he came and presented himself to the Zambian people in 2021 has totally changed. That's my difficult now too. How am I going to comment on this behavior? Has totally changed, because you remember very well, he promised, for example, the youth to engage the youth through the media from time to time. And he used to use TikTok, Facebook to send some messages to the Zambian people. Sometimes he would just greet them. Sometimes he would send a gospel quotation. But he was saying that he was going to engage the Zambian people. And he was going to engage as well the media from time to time at State House. And this year, the president has been moving from place to place, from cultural activity, from celebration to celebration. And it was officiating in many of these academies. So what has happened recently, I think it was legitimate that the Zambian people could ask, what is going on? Why is the president not saying anything? Why was he absent at trade fair, especially among those other absentees? But his presence at trade fair really resounded very, very loudly. My observation or my comment on this one comes with what I observed yesterday. I think there is a by-election somewhere, Mr. Mwamba. I don't know whether you can help me. I don't know whether it is in Mufulira or in Karulushi. There must be a by-election there. People are campaigning. And
Father, there are various by-elections currently taking place, including the big one from Mfuwe in Lavushimanda. And then there are these ward elections.
Right. Yeah. So maybe it was a group from Mufue. So in that campaign process, the group of UPND cadres and supporters received a phone call. There was a phone call coming from President Hakainde Hichilema, and he was encouraging them, and he was sustaining them to go ahead, and he was mentioning, I think it's the word which has now become some novelty in the language of the Zambians, Kwenyu. He was telling them, tell the people about the Kwenyu and things like that. So the president yesterday talked to the UPND cadres. Now, this is where now I was observing as well. Why was it so difficult to the president, even if there was something which was happening, he was not here in health. As he has said today, that probably it's because of the mourning that maybe he considered to stay behind because the country is still mourning. Also there, I was a bit confused because I thought the mourning was interrupted. And I think it is our president himself who came on Zambia television and said that because it was taking too long, and he halted the official mourning of the former president. So it's confusing indeed, because he halted the mourning.
Yes, Father. On
officially.
19th June, the president cancelled the period of national mourning. It was supposed to go up to 23rd. This was a day after the body didn't arrive. And he said, we have to return to normalcy. The country has to move on. But he clearly, now he says he hasn't even traveled. He's showing the feelings that has shocked many Zambians. This is a man who's been dismissive. He has sued the widow and the family. He's taking a very controversial court process in South Africa. And all of a sudden he says he has actually even not moved because he's mourning. Wow. That has shocked many of us.
Confusing. It's very confusing. I fail to understand when you listen and say, well, okay, now look at these also incidents. The president tells the country, this is just my opinion. I'm not accusing our leadership. I'm just commenting on what is coming from our leader. He is our president. He's our servant, because I think we put him in that position as patriotic Zambians. as citizens of Zambia, think we voted for him and we put him on that responsibility. Now, if the president yesterday could call the UPND supporters in a by-election campaign and could not even just call to greet the people when there was inauguration of trade fair, it becomes complicated and very difficult to understand. Now, also
Thank you,
now the
Father.
president in front
Tha-
of the
Yes,
sorry, let me just finish that. In front of the USA ambassador, and then the president says, well, okay, we are now going to inaugurate a modus operandi which is going to be much better than before. I was expecting that the president was going to ask for forgiveness to the American for what happened with the medicine, with the theft regarding the medicine which the Americans gave us. I thought to open a new chapter. I thought he was going to say sorry to the ambassador or to Donald Trump, to say next time we promise that we are going to utilize the resources or the medicine to our citizens in Zambia responsibly. I thought he was going to talk about that point, but then it was just to change, to flip the coin, and now this is 8 months,
yeah,
9 months before election, to
yeah,
begin
yeah.
everything afresh. 9 months before elections.
Thank
I
you,
thought
thank you,
unless you
Father.
are a genius.
Let me bring in a caller who has come in before I bring in Bachilufia. Caller, please tell us your name and introduce yourself.
Okay, my name is Dr. Moelwa. I'm calling from Lusaka.
Thank you, Dr. Mwelo. Make your contributions or questions.
And on the president's disappearance, I won't say much. On his comment about the funeral, again, it's quite interesting. I followed the laughter, but it is true that people just laugh it out. I would like to comment on the ruling that the Speaker made this afternoon in Parliament with regard to Bill 7. The Constitutional Court, in its ruling on Bill 7, was fundamentally against the executive and the process it used to initiate the bill. Not just the content, but the process. What was the court's main issue? The ruling focused on the process, not on the merits of the amendments. The executive, the president and their cabinet initiated the constitutional amendment process without broad-based consultation, without independent public consultation, something that the court said is required by the constitution's spirit and structure. So the speaker's ruling is like the court is trying to stop the National Assembly from doing their work. When in fact the court is not saying National Assembly should not do their work. They are actually looking at, number one, the executive had no constitutional authority to draft and submit a constitutional amendment bill without prior consultation. Number two, an independent body like a constitutional review commission should have been appointed first, according to several acts that the Constitutional Court referred to. And National Assembly's involvement cannot cure, and it cannot cure this flaw. It cannot cure this, process, because the process was flawed right from the beginning. It is a contaminated process. It is contaminated at source. So it should not proceed in the National Assembly. And that is not in any way taking or usurping the power nationally from doing what they are supposed to do. So the bill, in fact, from what has been discussed so far, is the contaminated Southern must be withdrawn from National Assembly. Why has it become so urgent in the Constitution? Is it because of what others have talked about, that they are now, it's in a process, it's at step number 9 into tyranny, where they want to shut up every, are going to like what happened in 1913, enabling act gave to become what it became later in life. So we need to be very careful, and we need to put pressure on Parliament to stop this process.
Thank you. That's Dr. Mwelwa from Lusaka, Zambia. He's a well-known person. He does author various papers on national matters. The lines are open. I'll give Patrick Chirufia to make his remarks, but the line is now open. Quickly make your remarks about these matters briefly, then we hear from the caller so that you can come and answer.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mwamba. I think the last caller, the doctor, is spot on. Because what Parliament, what the Constitutional Court found in that Bill 7 ruling was that the executive actually abused its power. They didn't have the powers to do what they did. And Mwamba, in every situation, in every process, procedure is very important. Something might be factual, might be correct, but if it's procedurally not correct, the court will throw it away. And Parliament, their job with Bill 7 is, when Bill 7 has been properly done, using, following the Constitution, and then their job, remember I said oversight, is to scrutinize that document. Like what would have happened with Mopani. After everything has been done, shortlisting everything, Mopani was supposed to go to Parliament. What was Parliament's duty? Scrutinize the deal between Mopani and RRIH. They were going to ask, where is the due diligence report? Where was this? Why was this? And they were going to compare the two shortlisted companies. That's the duty of Parliament. So, on the issue of the president, Mwamba, I'll be quick. There is a misconception in Zambia that the president is a private person or the president is the executive. No, the president is not a private person, he's a public person. And the president is a public person, and that's why people criticize them. I'm not saying they should insult them, but here in the UK, Mwamba, Boris Johnson used to be insulted left, right, center. Nobody was arrested. I'm not saying we should accept it, but when you look at Parliament in South Africa, the Red Party, the way they used to insult Zuma, the way they used to ridicule Zuma in Parliament, if it was in Zambia, that party would have been
closed.
Malema party would have been closed. Malema would have been in jail by now. Seditious, So that's the beauty of democracy, But then the president, Mwamba, the president is our servant. We've employed him. He's our employee. He's not an executive. He's not our master.
But Chirufia, just a minute. Let me just take this call. Let's just see how we can take a few calls, and then we can begin to wind up to allow you to rest. Just hold on. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Okay. Good evening, Honorable Mwamba.
Good evening.
I'm calling you from Zambia.
Okay.
Okay, I hope you can get me. I want to comment on the ruling of the speaker.
Your name, sir. Do you wish to tell us your name, or you remain anonymous?
I want to remain anonymous. Yeah.
That is well.
Okay, so even as a first year law student, I have learned that all laws in the country in Zambia, they get their spirit from the constitution. There's no law that is above the constitution. So the constitution is their judgments. It's a constitutional code that offers their judgments. So even the laws that the parliament passes, they cannot supersede the constitution. So that judgment is not good. It's not in the spirit of the people. Furthermore, Nelly Muti, meaning she's directly not agreeing with what the president said when he said that indeed he wants people to consult further. So I think Zambians should be able to speak up. We are under pressure, and this is not good for the country. And yeah, I think that's my short contribution. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Dr. Mwelwa, who earlier contributed to our discussion, has written an article that he has just sent me. He says Bill 7 was born in error. And the article is why Bill 7's legislative path couldn't cure its unconstitutional origin. And therefore the matter can be defended and should be withdrawn. And the proposed path that the Constitutional Court has proposed is what should take place. So let's take a few calls. For those that wish to participate, please call so that we allow you to also say your views. I've got two special guests. Weekend wa baby ukutali. Na kanona wonga wale for kulanda po emkwai. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Yes, good evening, and how are you?
Our baby is crying in the background.
I think he's now settled with a bottle.
Ah, okay.
Good evening, and how are you?
Please make your contribution. I have two special guests, Patrick Chilufya from the United Kingdom,
Yes,
and Father Oscar Mwansa from Italy, and myself from the United States. Make your contributions.
A quick one. As all they are saying, pointing out to Nelly Muti, you know, it is very disappointing as a country where you remove cadres from the stations and you throw them in a very sensitive offices. Those institutions are broken because of one man's desire to stay in power forever. You know, you do not do this to a country. This is our country, and let's respect our courts. And it is not the first time him showing this high disrespect to the courts. Even when you look at Bowman's case and Matranji, it was a very bad example for the president to be riding on such lawlessness. And he is the first man, he should respect the law. Please, we are appealing to our president to behave in a orderly way, to respect our courts. And those people that are abusing their positions as Nelly Muti, we fear for their time to come. I greet you as I conclude.
Oh, thank you very much. A caller from Lusaka says it's time for reckoning for people like Nelly Muti is coming. They should just do the right thing, and is appealing to the president to allow, to respect the constitution. But as you can see, we are highlighting the failures. But Patrick, you were on the floor. I cut you. But be willing to be cut when a caller comes in, but make your contributions.
No problem. Let me finish quickly. So, Amamba, we were talking about the very important topic of the president all of a sudden disappearing in public. But Mwamba, as I mentioned, the president is our employee. Imagine employee when Teshle Kunchitoka Bulokumieva. That's how it works. So, like in Botswana, they say the president is sick. That's why the president is not in public. There is nothing in Zambia. Everything is secret. So we did it to Mwanawasa. We did it to
President Michael Sata.
Michael Sata. And I remember Dr. Nevas Mumba went on social media and say, why are we hiding? So, and we continue doing that. Why? Why are we doing that? Because Bamwamba, I was born in Chilabombo. I grew up in Kitwe and in Dola. For 59 years, there's never been a time where a president has been missed. And not only a president, they also invite regional presidents to come to the trade fair. This is one of the most powerful regional trade fair. I think it's amongst the most powerful trade fairs in Africa. We get people from all over the world, companies from all over the world. And the president was on itinerary, he wasn't there. And then Gonde Luindi, he was on itinerary, he wasn't there. So people would talk. And I'm happy that the president is okay because we need him. We gave him a mandate of 5 years and we want him to finish it. And so, Bamwamba, the problem is the media. Kaunda, when Kaunda was in power, Bamwamba, Nganaka, Balechta announced that President Naba Kumfuwe, Mukutusha. And even when Kaunda wasn't feeling well, Kaunda was the hospital, by the medical checkup, and that was in one party, we call it dictatorship. But now in a democracy, it's a secrecy that President Nalwala. Yes, President Muntu, just like anybody else, but President is a public figure. Muntu Swaretu Wombela is our steward, is our custodian. So, we are getting one. The rest of these very important ceremonies like Zambia Trade Fair, association, I rest my case, Bamwamba. And then, Bamwamba, before I go, my president, the president had a meeting with the ambassador of America today. And one of the things the ambassadors were not happy about was corruption in Zambia, which is serious. I think even more sophisticated than in PF. Bamwamba, the president promised before a Chile law that he was going to unveil the forensic report on the Ministry of Health corruption. Where is the report? Because that's a public document. We want to see it.
Yeah.
I rest my case.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Father Donosco, I had interrupted your thoughts, but if you have something to say, you can contribute.
Yes, I think also on the American ambassador, he mentioned the underperformance that they have observed for the past years, the underperformance of the Republic of Zambia, especially as considering the help that the American has been giving to our country. And of course, if you go and make some calculations, we'll find out that they have always been generous, even in the health sector, but also in sponsoring some particular projects. So the underperformance and of course the ambassador as well mentioned the insecurity that American investors are fearing because they don't see the stability insofar as investing in the country is concerned. I have to say that I'm not speaking bad about my country. What we are trying to do here is just to comment on what happened. And for me, on those issues, I thought that as usual, the president was going to listen and take some advice. But then the president continued and said, well, we want now to change the way of doing our work in partnership with our friends, the United States, and in partnership with the new government, which is Donald Trump administration. I thought probably as well, knowing the history, what happened with some of the comments that were uttered regarding Donald Trump's way of doing business and his participation in the politics. I thought maybe on that one as well, to close the chapter, maybe there was going to be some excuse or some sorry, something like that. I personally, if I was the one who was going to advise our president, I would have said that to close the chapter, we as Zambians, we are going to ask sorry to the Americans for bad administration of the resources that the Americans send us. And probably as a very good gesture, I thought maybe not only moving the minister from one place to another, maybe thought firing ministers responsible and in that time was going to send a very, very, very good sign. But also these things we have found that it's not, we did not have them. Let me just say maybe a comment if I can on the caller or Dr. Mwewa. Dr. Mwewa said something very interesting. And Dr. Mwelwa said Bill 7, the problem with Bill 7 is the process. It's not the question of not abandoning or not removing it from the parliament by the proposer who is the Minister of Justice of our Republic of Zambia, but it's the process. The process was wrong. And Dr. Mwewa says the process was contaminated. Some of you Zambians who are very good at psychology, when you have contamination, allow me to give you an example of Kafue River, which was contaminated by the acid, which was poured in through that dam of a Chinese businessman. So the contamination, what happens, the contamination is they have to do a very long process of decontamination. It takes time. So if Dr. Mwewa, and I think I support your reasoning, Dr. Mwewa, he said that the bill was contaminated. So the process was wrong. And he talked about the executive. It's like the executive did the proposal, are the ones who put forward that proposed Bill 7. And then also that one was, I think by the Concord, that one was judged against. And so if it was contaminated, there is need of a process of decontamination. Now that process is very long. It takes time. And also, Dr. Mwewa said that the executive probably also abused their power according to the ruling of the Concord. If that has not been done, I think the bill was going to be allowed to continue. So the executive, I think, might have in one way or another abused its power. And so looking at our president and some of the powers that he possesses in his authority as a leader of the country, one of them, I think, is to defend the Constitution. Our president sworn in Heroes Stadium to protect and defend the Constitution of the Republic of Zambia. So if he is the gentleman that was entrusted with authority to protect and defend the Constitution, here the judges have ruled. The appeal is to the president to protect and to defend the Constitution.
Thank you very much. Indeed, the president swore to protect the Constitution. The president swore to defend the Constitution, and is supposed to actively only engage in processes that will make, if there were amendments, they should be driven by the people, not by the executive. and that we should make a durable constitution. So far, that process has failed. We'll end on this note. I'll ask you, my dear special guest, to make your final remarks. I think we need to rest. We had started a bit 30 minutes late. I apologize to our viewers, but let me say this. Kundananji at the ongoing WAFCON games, CAF Women's Football, did a wonderful job, and she was voted Woman of the Match for the Total Energies WAFCON currently going on. It's a 2024 one, although we're in 2025. And Zambia beat Senegal 3-2. We secured the win. Barbara also played a key role, played very well. But Kundananji has also lifted the Woman of the Match in the Zambia-Senegal match. Congratulations to our Copper Queens. Rachel Kundananji posting a wonderful, wonderful Woman of the Match, Barbara creating and also scoring, and Zambia won 3-2. Congratulations to our women. For the callers, I think we are close. Let me just invite my dear brother Patrick to summarize the issues of the day, and then I go to Father to summarize the issues of the day, and then we close the program with some of the videos that we had played. Patrick.
Yeah, thank you, Ramwamba, and congratulations once again to the Copper Queens. Ramwamba, all these things we've been talking about boils down to one thing: leadership. And it's not today, it's not under this government. Our country has been robbed of good leadership. And whatever we are facing as a country today is not as a result of the making of the PF, the UPND. It's a collective responsibility of all presidents. They've all done good things and they've all made big blunders. And one of them is Dr. Miles Monroe. This is on leadership. Dr. Miles Monroe said, most third world countries, most of them African countries, will never have sustained development and growth, economic growth and development, because of politics. And he said, not until leadership, not until we bring, because this country also was a third world country, Bahamas, not until we bring leadership into politics, we can as well forget and wait for Jesus to come. So, Lamwamba, and patriotism is part of leadership. True leaders are patriotic. And if we don't have patriotic people running government institutions, the speaker being in parliament, being partisan, we are in trouble. Because if people is a cadre, you won't be patriotic. You'll be loyal to the president. Not until we bring in, we become patriotic, Zambia will never develop Mwamba. And then corruption is as a result of bad leadership. So at the end of the day, Mwamba, our country needs leadership. We brought in the UPND because we wanted leadership. Because all that confusion what was happening in PF was a result of bad leadership. Because Mwamba, good leaders, in my book, I've got a chapter on leadership lessons from Jesus. Yeah. This is the greatest leader ever walked on earth.
Yeah.
And I've summarized the leadership of Jesus into what I call 4 E's. What are these 4 E's? Jesus the enabler, Jesus the empowerer, Jesus the equiper, and Jesus the emancipator. All this is in the Bible. Yeah. So leaders are supposed to be they are supposed to be unifiers. They're supposed to be emancipators. You know, Bamwamba in Congole and the slave work that is happening in the mines. You know, remember Sata came into power because of the Chinese, the way the Chinese were treating Zambians as slaves. Sata won the elections because people saw leadership in him as an emancipator. Here is a guy who's gonna you know, and leaders are unifiers, they are enablers.
Yeah.
You know, and we are missing, so all that we are missing, Bamwamba, is leadership. I rest my case.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, my dear brother, and thank you for the evening, and thank you for the sacrifice. I bring you greetings. I can see Professor Kasonso has sent greetings to you, the panelist, to you, Father Donosco, and to Patrick Chilufia. And our dear brother, Kelvin Chandaka from Australia, has also sent greetings. He's tuned in. He says, wonderful, wonderful program. Bakasonso says he'll be available, I think, on Friday or next week, but to let you know. Father, what are your closing remarks?
My closing remarks is to encourage our police officers, first of all, regarding the case in Muumbu, to encourage our police officers to engage the public. The citizens of Zambia, especially the youth, are not the enemies of the state. Those, they need guidance. They need to have a dialogue with authorities. If we have that number, about 25, I hear 25,000 people flocked to Muumbu there. It means that the level of unemployment in Zambia is just too high. And the other meaning, it's like the people of Zambia are facing a lot of challenges. The economy is really harsh on many, many, many Zambian people. Those are the two things that I understood why almost more than 25,000 youth who flocked to Muumbu to look for fortune and have a possibility of getting some gold. And so my appeal is for the police, those are our citizens, to the government, those are your children. Those are your children. Even the last bit, if we have lost just one person, I hope that the government can go and look for that person, identify the family members, and probably allow for a burial, a wonderful burial for those people that we have lost. Then on the bill, the question of the bill, our appeal to our president, Your Excellency, you issued, you used your power to order the Minister of Justice to retrieve that bill from Parliament. And the day after, the Concord judged against the bill, stating of the wrong process, and hence ordering for a new start. So, Your Excellency, just as we said some time back, there was not enough time 3 months ago, the way the Catholic bishops stated, and the Law Association of Zambia stated to you. And these two are two of the key stakeholders in Zambia. They said there is not enough time. So, Your Excellency, you are the one who can protect the Constitution, who can defend the Constitution. I can understand myself. Probably for the party, the UPND party, they might find it very difficult at the moment that things are not going into their favor, hence trying another type of way of gaining power or conserving power. Your Excellency, the Zambian people are going to thank you if you do the right thing. Mostly, if you are going to protect and defend the Constitution. You might be surprised if you make that decision. Probably the Zambian people, they can give you another chance. But put the Zambian people in the first place, defend the constitution, even if our sister Nelly Muti might be, she makes me very much confused. I am not a lawyer. I don't know this language. I am not a member of parliament. But when I listen to our mother, the Nelly Muti, the Speaker of the National Assembly, I get totally confused. And I hope the Zambian people might be much wiser than me, and probably they might understand what is going on. But I appeal also to Nelly Muti, the Speaker of the National Assembly. Your Honor, I don't know if the title is honorable. Your Honor, please, that bill is contaminated. And one thing that makes it contaminated, when I heard even Cornelius Mwetwa and Tabo Kawana and also Simuwe, they were saying those bills which were contained in Bill 7, the clauses which were contained in Bill 7, they were non-contentious. This word, Your Excellency, Madam Nelly Muti, reflect on this one. The ones who were supporting the bill, they said the clauses in Bill 7 were non-contentious. But the way I understand myself, I think any clause is contentious. That's why there is also need to go back to the drawing board and maybe start afresh. But my advice is there is no tangible time. Actually, I can appeal to the president, help the people to do the registration, give some funds to the people to help the Zambians go and register for voting, and for those who do not have the voters' cards, also to go and renew and register. That is my appeal. Thank you very much. And thank you to Mr. Chilufya. Thank you to all the viewers in Zambia and elsewhere. Thank you very much. And may God bless you. May God bless even this government, especially may God bless President Hakainde Hichilema.
Thank you very much, Father. Thank you. That was Father Oscar Mwansa Pombo from Italy, Catholic priest that engages in social teachings and makes a lot of contributions to our countries. Is a regular voice on matters of governance in our country, and we appreciate him and we appreciate his presence here. I was hosting Mr. Chilufya Patrick from the United Kingdom, also a fervent contributor to national affairs, and he's even written a book that's under review for publication. We look forward to that book on leadership, and they gave insights. Today we're discussing the state of the nation, the Muumbu crisis. We're discussing the Speaker's ruling today, shocking ruling, where she's disregarding directives and orders of the Constitutional Court. I guess this will be burning, and we might look for maybe Mr. John Sangwa to come and amplify on this matter. What does it mean? It's very, very shocking, this ruling by the Speaker. The President, after many days of speculation, finally appeared. He missed 3 key events: the Zambia International Trade Fair, Gonde Luindi traditional ceremony, where he was expected to hand over the palace that has been built for Chief Monze at the cost of 4 million. Remember, there's a government program that was started by President Michael Sata of building palaces for our chiefs. There are over 287 recognized chiefs. So there are various palaces that are being built for them, starting with the paramount chiefs, the senior chiefs, the actual chiefs. 287 have to be built. Some are now getting ready. So President Hakainde Hichilema was expected to hand over this house that was ready for Chief Monze. He didn't turn up. He didn't go to Muumbu, where a disaster has occurred, where over 25,000 young people had gathered to dig in some old pits because there are discussions. There are You know, where there's a gold rush, there are huge stories of the amount of gold that's available wherever you dig. So over 25,000. I've seen government is now using even figures like 50,000 turned up. But in the process of dispersing such a large crowd, there were casualties. And an underlying issue has arisen. What do you do with this level of unemployment? It's totally unacceptable that you can have a working, an adult population willing and ready to work. They can even use their money and go to Muumbu. That's how desperate our young people are. It's not that they are lazy, they are willing to work, but there are no jobs. And the opportunities are then shut away. They are shot. And this is a president who had said there will be no shooting of any, if any government kills any person, whether 1 or 5 or 18, that government doesn't deserve to be in office. And we agree with him. And the president so made his final appearance today, met the U.S. ambassador. There were various discussions, as we saw, because the matter was held live. He commented about the ECO family, where he said he has engaged with the family for negotiations. As far as we are concerned, there's no such negotiation so far. All we've seen is a hostile process where government of the Republic of Zambia has sued the family, and they are demanding that they surrender the remains of the late president to President Hakainde Hichilema's government. That was our discussions today. I leave you with some of the videos we're discussing today just to refresh yourself. God bless you. We'll see you on Friday. And shalom, shalom, and special thanks to Father Oscar Mwansapombo, Father Donosca, and to Chitalu, to Chilufia Patrick, who was my special guest. God bless you, and we'll hear from you later.
6% GDP growth. My colleagues are saying 5.8. I disagree with them.
Thank you very much. You are released now. Muwaposheva Mayo and greet your children. I could see in the background they were coming.
It was my young son.
Oh.
Yeah.
Relationship.
Oh, wonderful.
Government to government, business to business, government to business, and vice versa, and person to person.
Thank you for that.
Thank you very much. So I also thought that it's important that now we are in this space of a reasonable achievement in debt restructuring. In our view, Ambassador, huge achievement from where we were 4 years ago on the rule of law and order in the streets, in the bus stops. It was chaotic here. And I can appreciate for those who were not here at the time. I don't think you can imagine what the situation was. It's difficult to imagine, humanly possible. But we're happy that it's not a one-shot solution, it's a process. But we are happy that we're by and large restored law and order. We know we have now new issues lingering around mineral resources, illegal mining, unsafe mining, informal trade. We want to agree with you. These are some of the areas we want to discuss to see how we can manage these areas. But by and large, I'm talking about the rule of law. We set out also to reconstruct the mining sector. So as a major sector, which we always, as a country, have relied on, although we now want to drive diversification, but we cannot leave alone a key sector, such as the mining sector. And for the first time in the history of our country's mining experience, we believe this year will achieve close to, if not 1 million tons of copper. And that's why you see a reasonable appreciation in the local currency, because the supply side of dollars is actually US dollars, I must say. Not Canadian dollars, but US dollars. is the flows, the supply side is improving. And it's very important to us who are still largely import dependent that we can improve the supply of dollars. So it's our focal area, as I said, US dollars. I don't have to tell the story. I think you've seen for yourselves the restoration of, Mopani, KCM, 28 shaft, which was out of commission for 23 years, right? If you like, 2-3 presidents before left these problems. Kalengwa mine was out of commission for 47 years. So literally all the 6 presidents before me found that problem, left it in that situation, we have brought back Kalembo mine. That tells you this government is focused on getting the economy going, because we know that's where jobs are, we know that's where business opportunities are, we know that that's where treasury revenue is to support free education. 2 million kids back in school once we introduced our free education policy. Figures are all, numbers don't lie, right? You compare that to where we were 4 years ago, we had a minus 2.8% GDP. Last year in the West drought, in living memory, we still managed to post 4% GDP. This year, I know my colleagues are conservative, but I like to be aggressive. We think we'll, so since we live together here, you will know why the president is taking a little bit of not too much pushing things. So I saw in the social media, because I scan social media, they think I'm dying tomorrow. Someone said, he has not been seen, even traditional ceremony. Actually, traditional ceremony last weekend, I sent another minister to represent. It's delivered. It's a decision I've taken to work on these things. So otherwise, thank you very much. Minister, thank you for coming at short notice. I hope your colleague is on the way. Minister Tyranny is in town.
Amid the U.S. shift in foreign policy, government is now forging a new path with the U.S. government, one aimed at enhancing development, economic growth, and job creation. This was highlighted during a meeting held between President Hakainde Hichilema and the United States of America Ambassador to Zambia, Michael Gonzalez, at State House.
President Trump is calling back aid, not to Zambia only. He's calling back to aid across the world. It's painful. It's sudden. One always wishes that they could have been given an opportunity to adjust. But he's doing the right thing for the people of America, who elected him into office. It's our job to do what is right for the people of Zambia, who elected into office. It's our primary responsibility. So as we respond to the clawback on aid, painful, yes. ARVs, yes. But for us, we're saying, let's flip the coin. What is it that we can do with a new approach from America? And that's why we want today to talk about a reset. So we don't want to mourn Ambassador Gonzalez. We want to say the coin has two sides. What is it that we can do to find convergence between the new thrust in America and the President Trump and our own desire to grow the economy?
President Hichilema also called for increased partnerships in economic sectors between U.S. and Zambia that reflects the aspirations of the Zambian people.
We don't want the model of the past where FDI came and they had 100% of shares in our country. No. We want FDI that comes, that works with us at the equity level, at the management level. We want the best skills, even if they're from outside. But if one skilled person helps us to employ 100 Zambians, we should give the work permit. That's why that minister is sitting here. That's why that PS is sitting here, so that we can make our position very clear as to what is desirable for us. So skills to deliver commercial success in our joint venture businesses.
The president also disclosed his government's agenda in restructuring the mining sector towards its 3 million metric tons of copper target by 2031.
We know we have now new issues lingering around the mineral resources, illegal mining, unsafe mining, informal trade. We want to agree with you. These are some of the areas we want to discuss to see how we can manage these areas. But by and large, I'm talking about the rule of law. We set out also to reconstruct the mining sector. So as a major sector, which we always as a country have relied on, although we now want to drive diversification, but we cannot leave alone a key sector such as the mining sector. And for the first time in the history of our country's mining experience, we believe this year will achieve close to, if not 1 million tons of copper. And that's why you see a reasonable appreciation in the local currency, because the supply side of dollars is actually US dollars.
And Mr. Gonzalez reflected on the long-standing relations between the U.S. and Zambia.
Policy actions in Washington are moving very, very quickly, as well as announcements. I am committed, as is my team, inviting me and my team to State House, along with your colleagues from Cabinet and the relevant ministries for this meeting. I was saying to the PS earlier, it was 30 years ago tomorrow that I first stepped foot in Zambia, hitchhiking from Namibia to Zimbabwe. And it was then that this country caught my attention. As I think I've told you in the past, my daughter took her first steps in Livingston 15 years ago. So I appreciate this opportunity for us to come together to review the U.S.-Zambia bilateral relationship. A relationship that I think to date has underperformed our potential. We have a history of huge amounts of development assistance that has failed to spur systemic development despite massive potential across this economy and nation. The business environment has not succeeded in attracting American businesses to spur that opportunity to turn into a reality. And in an environment where others have been able to exploit the environment, labor, the laws at the cost of the Zambian people. So today's meeting, I believe, is an opportunity for us to reset the relationship for mutual benefit, a benefit that delivers for both countries and for our peoples. As you no doubt everyone in the world has seen, the United States approach to foreign policy has shifted dramatically over the past 6 months of the Trump administration, shifting most boldly in a place like Zambia from an orientation of a aid or assistance-led model of development to a model of development based in commerce, an issue that you and I have talked about since my very first day in country, that I think we're both very passionate about seeing realized. But also an orientation of shifting beyond words to tangible actions, where the actions will be what resonates rather than the commitments.
You went viral for laying out 10 steps to autocracy. Run us through those steps so we all know.
Okay, so this happens in every nation that has become an autocracy, having been a democracy. So whether we're talking about Brazil with Bolsonaro, or India, or Putin and Russia, the Philippines with Duterte. So start with winning an election. Usually the last one you're going to get to have for real. Number two, you have an expansion of executive power. The president decides he wants more than he's supposed to have. Number three, you start to make the Congress complicit. So you weaken them and you neutralize or neuter the judiciary. Like, oh, I don't know, the Supreme Court giving you unfettered power and saying we don't have the ability to stop things. Then you move on to firing all of the people who know how to make government work. So you gut the civil service. And you do that because you want to break democracy so people forget the stuff that used to get done, so you can't get your Social Security check. So the CDC doesn't know what diseases are anymore. Then you put in place these loyalists, people who are only responsive to you. You put them in charge of the FBI so they go after your enemies. You put them in charge of the Department of Justice, the Department of Defense, so they can signal to their friends and tell them all about the evil plans that you have. Then you make certain that you break how we communicate. So you criticize the media and you create your own echo chamber of propaganda. You call it truth even though you know you're lying. Then you go to the next step, and I call that step 7. So at step 7, you have to blame someone. You have to blame people for the broken government, for the broken promises. So you go after DEI. You go after the vulnerable, the dispossessed. You go after any community that doesn't look like what you think power should be. While you're doing that, you make certain that you, in step 8, you eliminate anybody who can help them. So you sue law firms that do pro bono cases. You go after philanthropies and accuse them of giving money to the wrong people. You go after colleges and universities that can teach people possibly what else they should know. You get to step 9 and you start to encourage and incentivize private violence. You send the U.S. Marines into spaces they should not be. You send the National Guard in. You kidnap people off of the streets and pretend that's normal, because that's how you quiet dissent, because you make everyone afraid that if they don't do what you want, they might be next. And once you've done those 9 steps, step 10 is easy. That's when you decide there won't be new elections, because everyone's either afraid, poor, broken, or complicit.
Okay. Wow. Well, while you have the ear of the people right now and on their television sets, what is it that they can do to help avoid this and make a change in this?
Thank you. So I want to give credit to Kim Sheppel, who is a professor at Princeton. She came up with the framework. I've adapted it and potentially editorialized it more than she did. But I also want to give credit to the Robert F. Kennedy foundation, not the lesser successor, but the real guy. We can fight back. We can remember that we do have power. They don't want dissent, so protest. They want us to forget that before we had power, we had each other. So when they break democracy, when they break the Social Security system, when they slash SNAP benefits and Medicaid, make sure you're checking on your neighbors. Make sure we're using mutual aid. But also tell the truth. Do not let the propaganda win. Too often they tell a lie. They will tell a lie so often it sounds like the truth. We say the truth one time, and when people don't applaud, we stop talking. We've got to keep telling the truth, not only to push back against them, but to remind us that we are entitled to the truth. We have to believe that freedom of assembly means it's more than just going to protest. It's the ability to be friends with people who aren't like you. And we have to stop believing that we are in this alone. The most effective thing they do